right, recording here.
All right, my friends, welcome to episode 131 of Prof and Dev Play Games. I'm the Professor Larry at Prof Plays Games on Twitter, and over there is Anthony at SummerSpeak on Twitter. He develops video games for a living. How's it going, man?
It's going okay.
Yeah?
A long day of doing yard work.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Done with that.
So
it's sunny. It was sunny this past week and this weekend, so that means get outside, wander around the yard, pick up branches and other random stuff in the yard that the kids have put there, and get it all clean, and get the riding lawnmower all running again, oil changed, did the whole thing, and mowed the lawn. You know, another hour and a half of mowing the lawn.
Got to strike while the iron's hot and the sun is out.
Yeah. And I remember, I do like mowing the lawn because that's when I listen to podcasts the most.
That was the question I was about to ask you. Listening to stuff when you're riding the lawnmower. What were you listening to today?
It's a thing called the Dice Pool. Mm-hmm. It's for a role-playing system called Genesis. It's the generic version of the Star Wars system that I run.
Cool. Okay.
So it's a very big toolbox for, like, use this system for any setting. In this podcast, this is like the 7th or 8th episode, and they just talk about using that system, creating settings, and just fun stuff. Sometimes they do some actual plays. So yeah.
Oh, excellent.
So I was just listening to them talk about making a setting on the fly, and that's what they were doing 2 hours doing, was just randomly creating a setting with 4 people.
I have a suspicion of how hard that can be.
Yeah.
That's a great segue into what we're going to talk about tonight. This is Prof and Dev Play Games. Usually it's about video games. Tonight it's actually about a different type of games. But the games we're going to talk about, role-playing games, specifically D&D, really underpin a lot of the video games that we play, specifically the RPGs. You mentioned that D&D has been an influence on a lot of game designers that you know. Is that right?
Yeah. That I know, that I've read about. You can read articles, and the time when Gary Gygax actually, when he passed away, or really anything, whenever it's the anniversary of either Gary Gygax, the guy, he's created D&D, or one of the creators of D&D, his birthday or the anniversary of his death, you'll notice that there's a large outpouring from game developers on Twitter.
Right. So that makes sense.
Yes, you learn that this little game affected a lot of people, and kind of sent them on the path of wanting to create.
Excellent.
So,
well, D&D is something that I'm new to, and Anthony and I and a friend of mine are doing this campaign. I'm basically the game master, learning how to do that, kind of slowly, making some fun mistakes, doing some fun stuff. And we're putting it together for a new podcast that I'm doing with my friend Greg, and then Anthony will be there for this campaign, and who knows what else. It's called Pan Pacific Improv Fantasy. It's a new podcast we just launched, and every week we're going to have some improv fantasy stories, and then we're going to have our role-playing campaign. It's not D&D, it's just an eclectic mix of different rules that I've picked up from actual plays that I've listened to, and just trying to tell a story with friends. So if you got time and inclination, please check it out, Pan Pacific Improv Fantasy. But let's talk about your interactions with D&D, because you've been in it for at least 20 years as far as I know.
Yeah, or longer. So this is the weird thing with me. D&D was not my first role-playing game. Not even close. I didn't play D&D until college.
Oh, okay.
It was the first time I ever played D&D, and it was actually playing D&D was 3rd edition. I owned some 2nd edition, and some original AD&D, but I never played it. First role-playing game I actually played was Mage with our friend Luke back in high school. That was the first time I ever got to play. And the first books I ever bought were BattleTech back in the day, and MechWarrior.
Yeah, I remember those.
So
that you had.
I was much more on sci-fi, and that was when I was in middle school. I think I got those when I was in 7th grade, something like that. Like, I was just into mecha and sci-fi. So, and I don't know how my grandparents would have dealt with me having a D&D book in the house then.
That would have been interesting, considering the stereotypes back then about D&D players in their basements with their trench coats and murder.
It's not a trench coat. Satanic panic.
Yeah.
I remember in grade school, youth pastor talking about how evil D&D was. And I mean, I didn't buy it. That was like probably one of the first times I started like going, what's up with this? I don't I don't think this is really legit what you're saying. Okay.
Whipping out those critical thinking skills that we all should be
Yeah,
employing.
basically, it was like, I was like, that was probably started the first fracture with me and any of that church going there.
Right.
But yeah, that was like, right, like, there was always this negative connotation in that like church group, and like, oh, you could get possessed or you're summoning demons, and
like it's a Ouija
which
board.
is the most hilarious thing ever, because then you read and you're like, this not anything to do. Yes, it's fantasy, as in a Tolkien Lord of the Rings type fantasy thing.
Yeah.
But you're summoning. No, you're just telling a story with friends. That's it. Rolling some dice. Oh no, so scary. But I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's better I was in the sci-fi stuff and wasn't into fantasy at the time.
Yeah, when I think
I just collected books and I read a lot of early RPGs and would create my own things from like middle school through high school. Just would have fun reading and designing.
Yeah, when I think about, excuse me while I drop this pin on the ground here, when I think about your interests, they kind of, sci-fi is definitely the first thing that comes to mind for you. Versus me, it's more fantasy. And I remember, I guess it was in college then, that you had some D&D books, and I was really interested in fantasy at the time.
You don't remember this. I ran a campaign, one session for you. I know it. I know I did it during the summer.
No, I believe you, because I remember.
It was third edition had come out, and I picked up the third edition books. So
right. That's what I remember looking through.
And I'm pretty sure it was you, Luke, and what was Luke's wife's name? Laura?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think it was you three.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm just going to run one game. Right. Just a one shot. I don't even remember what it was.
I don't remember doing it, but I know I did.
I'm certain I did it in it would have probably been between our sophomore and junior years.
And it was
of college.
At the table at your grandparents' house, right?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, so I remember sitting there doing D&D and not understanding what the hell I was doing.
Yeah.
I liked looking through the books because I was into fantasy literature, specifically because of our friend Travis. I was into reading Dragonlance, which is obviously a D&D setting. I was way into Dragonlance, which looking back now is just like it was okay, but I was hardcore into it.
I would say that being into Dragonlance is probably, I will look back better on than say being into
oh no,
Sword of Truth.
I knew you were going to say that.
I know, because I read them all too. And
oh my god, that guy.
It was terrible. And I look back on it now and I'm like, why did I think this was good? And my wife thinks the same thing. I
tried rereading those books and I was just like, eventually I was like, okay, the first 4 at least were really good. And no, they're all awful. And the new books I tried. I was morbidly curious and they're terrible. Terry Goodkind, just not the best writer. Probably better than me, obviously, but I'm not into reading those books anymore.
No.
But I've had a love of fantasy since high school, really, and just got hardcore into fantasy literature during college, but never dabbled in D&D. And I knew people who played it, obviously, but it was never something that I really understood until really recently. For some reason, I can't remember exactly what happened, but last 6 months or so, I started getting into the actual play podcast and asked you for a bunch of advice.
Yeah.
And you specifically mentioned Critical Role, which was at that point kind of nearing the end of campaign 1. It was just like this huge catalog of shows, basically. And the audio quality at the beginning wasn't really that great, so I kind of had a hard time following the action, but just luckily enough, they started campaign 2 pretty soon after I got interested in listening. And I think, like a lot of people, Critical Role has really gotten me into this thing. Like it's so good, so entertaining that I want to be involved in this shared storytelling kind of narrative building with friends,
Oh yeah. And Critical Role is probably the largest actual play now, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I know they go to Twitch every Thursday night and see how many people are watching Geek and Sundry's channel.
Yeah, I'm there every Thursday. Not watching the whole thing, but I like to, because I'm a week behind because of the podcast schedule. I think you listen on YouTube, but I like to see what they look like, and they do giveaways and stuff. So it's kind of nice to be there.
No, it's a great group of people, but it shows kind of the aspirational of what a D&D campaign can be, because really they're all voice actors,
right?
there's a certain quality bar there that you have to get out of your mind and going like, guess what? That's not what everyone's table is going to be like.
Right.
But you can understand the emotions like that, the entertainment value, the fun that they're having. That should be at everyone's table.
Well, and it's something for me to think about in terms of how Matthew Mercer DMs. Like what I'm trying to get to figure out how to do is to do that world building where like you step back and let the players make their decisions and you just kind of facilitate that, but then you're filling in like what the world is like, and that's still something I'm struggling with and kind of figuring out. But that's the part that's the reflection on that is really fun for me.
Yeah, and I would say like this is a small thing. So Matthew Mercer, and when he's running it, he does a lot of describing the attacks of the players. That's actually a pet peeve. I want the players to describe it.
Yeah.
But I understand why he does it. And this is actually where I don't want to say D&D is bad. D&D is great. But it is a very hard system to make combat feel flavorful. Because you are just rolling a single die.
Right.
And it's hit or miss. There's not gray. And Matthew Mercer does a great job of like flavoring those hits or misses. And I see kind of why he does it, because I don't know how comfortable all the players would be with doing that. Right. And that's one. It's a hard thing to get around because you want to make combat interesting, because combat is a big part of these games. D&D especially. You can't. It's hard to do D&D without combat. And if you were going to want to run a game without any combat, I would suggest different games
than D&D, right?
Than D&D. But it's interesting listening to him and how the rapport with the table fluctuates, like what Matthew Mercer will say and what he's comfortable letting the players do, and vice versa.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that, because my inclination with the game that we're doing is to give you guys more ownership over it and say, like last night before my Wi-Fi router died in the middle of our campaign and we couldn't finish the damn thing, is, you walk into the library, what do you see? You're over, you rolled a 12, that's a success, that's a huge success. What do you do? And when I was originally doing that, I thought, I'm not supposed to be doing this. I'm supposed to be narrating it. So I kept like fighting with myself, like, do I narrate it? Do I have them narrate it? And I'm falling on your side, where I want this to be a thing that all three of us are building. So you tell me what you think is happening at this point. What do you see? And it just makes it richer. Yeah,
it does. And there are times, like my Star Wars RPG game that I've been running for almost a year and a half now. There's definitely times when you have to, as the GM, DM, does it matter if I does it matter, do I have anything that I need to specifically put in here?
Right.
And if you don't, let the players describe it.
Yeah.
Because who knows, they might put a detail in there that you can use later.
And that's what both you and Greg have done when I've given over basically is like letting go of control. When I do that, you guys like put out little details that are just so much richer than what I even had planned, that I just work into what's coming up next, and it just makes it so much stronger. You had mentioned something earlier, maybe off camera or off mic, about the tiefling and not really being accepted anywhere or whatever. And I built that into that character coming and paying you guys gold for getting rid of that forest elemental, but he wouldn't talk to you and spit at your feet, and kind of reminded me, this guy is not someone who's really welcomed everywhere that he goes. No. So it kind of helped me build that piece of the world. Yeah, no. And as you're saying, and why I think especially game designers have gravitated to D&D and role-playing, is because it's about building worlds. And it's great practice for building games. Yeah, as a writer, from a writing standpoint, it's in my head all the time now, like the stuff that I'm writing in my books, building the world out, which honestly like 95% of it never gets said on mic. And I'm trying to figure out how to get more of it onto the mic, because like the world's built in my head and on the page, but not really getting onto the mic so much. But it's really helping me like refine like what's important, what's not. And just the pacing is, I'm enjoying kind of just let's move, let's go, let's move, let's do the next thing. So, and you can actually see that. I was gonna say, like, building, like, where this becomes like bigger stories, the Expanse books. That started as a RPG campaign. Do you know what system? You can find it in interviews. It was like a hack together. It was a D20 system. I think it was a D20 back in 3rd edition.
D&D. They made a D20 modern thing, and the sci-fi, they made a sci-fi-ish version of D&D, 3rd edition D&D, and I think it was that. And both the authors have been very clear that it was one of their D&D, one of their RPG game. Like, it was the setting for their campaign.
Well, and Martin was one of the characters,
the other guy
right?
came in and it was like, I wanted... Huh?
Martin was one of the characters,
what
right?
Was that?
Martin was one of the characters?
He might have been. I don't know. They never said specifically who the players were. Right. I just saw the interview that they specifically said, yeah, we were playing in that, and then one of the authors, I can't remember which one, it's Daniel Abraham and...
Ty Frank.
Who's the other?
Ty
Frank. I don't remember whose campaign it was and who was the one that had came in and saw the campaign, like watched it and was like, I want to write a book in this. And is like, well, you can, but I'm going to write half of it.
Yeah.
Like, that's how the agreement happened, but it was a world that they had designed to play a game in.
Well, I think that they do a really good job of writing that. I've only read the first 2 books so far, but they're obviously, I think they edit it to make sure it sounds like it's one voice, but it's really well done. Like, I like it.
Yeah, you can read the interviews on how they do their editing, and it's crazy. Like, they are comfortable with each other being basically, I'm taking this chapter, you're taking that chapter, this character, but it's basically you just hand over what you've written, and you let the other person edit as much as they want of that chapter. Like, nothing's sacred.
Well, having read a couple of Daniel Abraham novels, or MLN Hanover, whatever his other pen name is, I like the writing in the Expanse series much better than in his books. So I think they temper each other's worst impulses, perhaps, because it's much better.
But yeah, you can see where a place where RPGs and creating games and shared narrative help flex that same creative muscle that you use for any number of things.
Right.
So
yeah, it's just the creativity is something that can infest any other part of your life.
Yes.
I find it, in my classroom is where I find myself comparing my, running this campaign to running the classroom. And in my classroom, I go in with a lesson plan, completely meticulously planned out, knowing that I'm going to ditch half of it in the moment when my students need something else, or they go off in a different direction that is still within the confines of what I need to teach them, but is what they need in the moment. And finding that the way that I do that is applying to the D&D thing that we're role-playing thing that we're doing is sort of blowing my mind. Like, it's the same concept. Like, I have a plan. It gets basically shredded in the first 5 minutes because there are other things that you guys need to do and want to do, and then realigning my outline basically with where you guys are going in the game. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's a ton of fun. I recommend, and it definitely is a thing now where I think there's a lot more people doing D&D. It's a much more accepted thing now, because you sent me the article this past week that was basically Wizards is saying that 2017 was the best year ever for D&D.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Which is weird because that's 5th edition came out in 2013. So we're 4 years into this new edition, and it's having its best year. And the first year of 5th edition outsold the first years of 3rd and 4th edition. 3rd, 3.5, and 4th. Like, it was already the biggest ever.
And wasn't 4th edition kind of maligned?
It was, and even though I was in a campaign for 2 years in that system. Okay. It is maligned. It's weird in that it tried to bridge the gap more to digital terminology.
Yeah.
In a weird way, it was the most board gamey of D&D. You couldn't do it in Theater of the Mind. Right. It was very much you needed a grid because everything was devised in grids. It felt like a board game, like the way characters worked and how they used every class had powers and how they could use them was a little bit more board gamey. And then they used terms like, are you I don't know, they don't think they called it tanks, but there's tanks and supports, and strikers was DPS. They actually made all the different classes so they were one of these archetypes that mapped to what people had known out of World of Warcraft.
Right.
And so and it actually did, like, people malign it, but it sold decently well. Like, it wasn't completely hated. And I think, like, watching as Wizards rolled Fourth out, and that's when they started rolling out Adventure League more, like, it onboarded a lot of people. So it's maligned, but I see where it was helped as a bridging point to where we are now.
Do you think that they rolled out 5th edition more quickly than they rolled out 4th after 3rd edition? Like as a resetting almost?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. It took them a while to do 5th. And the thing with 5th is that they did a really long community playtest with it. Like they didn't even call it 5th. They just called it D&D Next. And they just put out packets and let people play. And they took 5th edition is probably the most community designed version of D&D. And it does a lot. It can be that really crunchy combat game, or it can be much more freeform narrative. It is, to me, it feels actually like, when reading the rules and going through it, it feels like a modern redesign of 2nd edition D&D. With, by modern, trimming out a lot of the nitty gritty rules and streamlining a lot of that.
Right.
Which some people like make that dumb it down. Sure, whatever.
Well, it just gets more.
But that's the thing. It's a D&D game. If you don't like the current edition, all the other editions still exist.
Right.
Just go play them.
Or go over to Pathfinder if you want. Like, really.
And Pathfinder's actually getting a 2nd edition. They just announced it.
Oh, wow.
And it will be they're going to be doing a play test with it starting in August. And it's going to be fairly different. Like, they're definitely working on revamping that system of it, even though it is D&D 3.75.
Right.
Like, it's where everyone went to when 4th edition came out that didn't want 4th edition.
Right.
So either way, I mean, it's a very crunchy system.
Yeah, I wonder if they're going to decrunch it a little bit to make it more accessible.
From what it sounds like, they are. Yeah. They're definitely. It's still gonna it's gonna be crunchier than 5th edition, but it's trying to get more to a middle ground, which is fine. Like, that's, again, there's a wide range of people that play these games who want different experiences, and so that's what's great is there's systems that can give you that if you look for them.
Well, I guess Wizards is finding out that making it a broader appeal is bringing in more people. This article I sent you says that Wizards said that 8.6 million Americans played D&D over the last 12 months, and then 9 million people have watched D&D games via Twitch. Just Twitch itself. That's, obviously a Critical Role is part of that. But there's a bunch more. What was the one with Felicia Day? I
don't know.
Oh, she did like a campaign thing. I can't remember what it was called. The Guild, wasn't it? The Guild?
Oh, the Guild. No, the Guild wasn't a D&D thing.
Oh, it wasn't? Oh, okay.
No, it's like a web series thing.
Oh, I thought it was based on D&D for some reason. It's just like a fantasy setting.
It's a fantasy MMO-ish thing.
Oh, okay. Well,
no.
My wife is, I keep talking about, the podcast I'm doing with Greg and the campaign that we're all doing together, and just how excited I am, and I'm working on it during the week and whatever. And, she's been asking me questions, and she sent me a tweet today that you probably have seen by someone named James Breakwell. I played Dungeons and Dragons with my daughters. They were supposed to fight the wolves surrounding a town. Instead, they fed the wolves and turned them into their friendly wolf army. Girls, man, they'll take over the world.
Yeah.
So she's
even. And I can't wait to play D&D with my kids. That's a great thing. Like,
it's just creativity, making things up. It's just, I was thinking the same thing. Like, eventually playing role playing with my daughter, which we would do with or without D&D. Because I just love making things up. It's just giving me, realizing that it isn't just rolling dice and moving, figurines on a grid. It's more about a shared narrative experience. That's what's gotten me into it all.
Yeah, and now the question is, your wife sees that stuff. Has she crossed the line where she's like, maybe I'd want to try this?
Oh, she's like, this is the nerdiest shit I've ever heard you do. I am not interested in the slightest. That's what she said.
Oh.
Yeah, so no, she's excited that it's an outlet for me, but she is much more. So there's two things. One, she's much more grounded in like she doesn't like sci-fi, she doesn't like fantasy, she doesn't like anything that's not like really, really real. And then two, she is a self-described like non-creative person. Like she feels like she's not very creative and making things up on the fly. So it's not really her strength, and that just wouldn't be fun for her. But she does like listening because she'll listen to Greg and I do our thing, or she'll listen to us, and it's just like, every once in a while she'll laugh because it's just stupidly funny. It's fun, and she encourages me, of course. She also says I'm satanic. No, just kidding. She doesn't say that. But there's an adventure league near me that runs on Wednesdays. I think I'm going to pop in one of these days just to feel what that's like to be. Because I've never actually played D&D as a player recently. I know I played with you apparently, but I seem to have blocked that from my memory.
I kind of have too. Like I don't remember what happened.
Yeah.
I'm like, I have memories of making a character with you and rolling some dice.
Yeah, me too. But I don't remember what.
I think there was a heist. I think it was a heist thing. I think you were supposed to get in and steal something.
That sounds fun.
And I think you guys did steal it, and that's where the end of the game was.
Yeah.
Like, because I had just gotten 3rd edition.
Right.
Like, it had come out that summer. And so I was like, oh, look I have these new books. Let's, I don't know. That's crazy. But I do recommend anyone listening to this, like, if you like just telling a story with people, look into role-playing.
Yeah.
Find a group. Find a local store. There has to be... Honestly, I've seen people playing at my local library. So,
oh, really? That's cool.
Oh yeah, I mean, you don't need a game store to play D&D or a role-playing game. You just need a book, some pen, and paper.
Right.
Or for me, my Star Wars game, it's all online because it's with people all over the U.S. Right. So there's a place I will pimp them because they've make a great product. Roll20.net, and it's a virtual tabletop where you can just play role-playing games. And D&D is the most popular on there, but you can basically find any system you want, pick it, and there's probably people looking for players. So I highly recommend that. It takes a little bit getting used to the virtual tabletop, but the ability to play a game with anyone, anytime, kind of worth it.
When I found even like listening to the Adventure Zone, the McElroys, one of their podcasts, like the Monster of the Week setting they did, there's really not a book. It's just the system, which I've incorporated into what we're doing, is just 2d6s, and the 1 through 4 is like a terrible failure, 5 through 9 is a mixed success, and then 10, 11, 12 is like super duper success, and that's it, and you just tell a story. So I have books here as reference materials for encounters that you guys will experience. Usually
like an owlbear.
Like an owlbear, like maybe something would have happened, but we didn't quite get there. It's there's a lot of stuff. There was some other beasts that I found that I couldn't pronounce their names. I was like, I'm gonna stick with owlbear because that's easy to say.
It is easy to say, and it's a pretty staple D&D creature.
Yeah, I've never seen that in my life. I just saw the picture. I was like, that's really cool.
Really?
I'm going to put an owlbear in there. I love
owlbears are awesome.
I love when you were like, just one owlbear? Why not a horde of owlbears? And your companion was like, what are you talking about? Don't give anyone any ideas. It's pretty funny. There's a lot of actual play podcasts out there if you're into them. Obviously, Critical Role is one. There's a One Shot, I think is the other one you mentioned. Yeah,
that's the one if you just want to listen to short one-shot games of usually the last 3 or 4 episodes of podcast, and then just different systems. So it's a great way to just, if you don't feel like following a long campaign, you can just get short stories and different mechanics. It's pretty fun to listen to, and because you learn. For me as a designer, I learn a ton from it. I'm just like always picking up on these new systems and weird ways. Like I don't know if there's a one shot of it, but their campaign, their Star Wars one, they did a 1 episode where they used this RPG called Dread, and it uses a Jenga tower.
Oh, Jesus Christ, man. That's
so
awesome.
Every time you have to make a check, the player has to move a piece in a Jenga tower.
Oh my God, man.
And if you make the tower fall, you die.
Dude, and then you reset it and then go again.
It's called Dread, and then so it's a horror. It's meant for horror RPG type stuff.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
It's super easy at the beginning.
Of course.
Not much worry, but the tension just builds and builds and builds, and you don't want to make tests because you'll make the tower taller, unstable.
Oh my God, who thinks of this shit? That's brilliant.
I don't know, but I'm like, that's amazing.
There's also a Sneak Attack. Have you listened to Sneak Attack?
I haven't.
Oh, it's a D&D podcast that I started listening to. That's pretty good. So that's one I recommend. And then I think you listened to Neo Scum, which is like a
Yes, Shadowrun
like craziness.
Oh, it's silly. It's super silly, and it's Shadowrun. It's cyberpunk fantasy with the dial turned to 11.
Yeah, right. That's what it sounds like.
It is. Who is the GM? Is Mike Migdal the GM? So one of the characters, Mike Migdal, he's either a player in it or he's the GM of it. He did some guest spots on One Shot and Campaign, and I really liked him as a player. He was hilarious, and so that's why I gave Neo Scum a shot, and he's hilarious in that too. So
yeah, he's in it. I'm not sure if he's running it or not, but he's one of the 5 that are doing it. So yeah, video games are our bailiwick, but they were a lot of the stuff we play undergirded by role playing, and we do role playing. Yep. I guess I do role playing now too. Oh my god!
Yes, you do.
It's crazy.
You're gonna go to hell now. What can I say? You're gonna summon demon, and it's all over.
Yeah, wait till you see what happens when Brad enters our campaign. It's gonna be just.
Oh no!
It's gonna be crazy.
Oh, it should be fun.
Yeah. So
I don't know if there's a good segue out of this into time travel game. I don't know. Role playing, a different take on a role playing game about time travel.
Absolutely. And just let everyone know, my baby is crying right now, so I might have to go take care of her in a couple of minutes. So we'll do this as long as we can, and I might have to come back. So I might edit that out. I might not. So we'll see.
We'll find out.
Yeah. But yeah, Chrono Trigger. Wow.
So we got through the Tyranno layer.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was because the last time we had just gotten back to the past, 65 million BC?
65
million BC. And so we're back there. What was it? The reptile people had kidnapped one of the cavemen, Kieran.
Yep.
Yeah. And Ayla was like, we got to go get him back. And through everything, you go through a number of things. You get in pterodactyls, and you get to the Tyranno layer, and it's probably one of the bigger dungeons we've gone through.
Yeah, it was quite a long one.
It had some just weird, like door puzzly type stuff, minor things going on.
Right.
So I was in there for a little bit, a couple of my sessions, and I finally got out of there. But yeah,
now, I'm trying to remember
those twists.
I'm trying to separate this from earlier. This was after Magus' castle.
Yep.
Who was I forget who the main enemy was that we fought at the end of this.
Azala.
Oh, that's right.
Main reptile dude who was doing something with Lavos, not summoning Lavos, but knew of Lavos, and you learn that Ayla in 65 million BC knows the term Lavos, the name Lavos, big fire.
Right, that's right.
So once you beat it, you realize you get that little scene that shows that Lavos hit the Tyranno layer after you guys have escaped and embedded itself into the planet 65 million years ago. So there's a twist.
And then afterwards, we got sent. It was a weird transition, I thought, where you went to the next place. I don't know if it made more sense to you.
I don't think it's not yet.
Okay.
But I mean, you go into a gate and you think you're going to the end of time.
Right.
And you end up at 12,000 BC, and it's all Ice Age, basically.
Yep.
And you wander around, and you're like, what is going on? And you find the elevator into the sky.
And then it's like this, I don't know if it's a marketplace or some sort of building where there are a bunch of people and books. And
some are sleeping, and you hear there's talks of like what's real, what's fake, what's a dream, what's not.
Right. I just remember being. I played it. I think it was like 3 or 4 days ago. So I'm struggling to recall some of the details, but I remember being pretty confused about what just happened and where I went.
Yeah.
I guess is by design.
It is by design. This is all. Even me, I can't remember exactly how this plays out, but this is an important part of the game because the game's not completely only about time travel. It's about what is real and what's not real in some ways.
Right. Well, it's echoed by that dream sequence after you get out of Magus' castle, and it's like, what is this? Am I where I'm supposed to be? Is this real? Is this a dream? Is this what's happening here? And I think the story is pretty good. Obviously, we both think the combat's really good, but this kind of meta story is really intriguing as well.
Yes,
there's just a lot going on.
There is a lot going on, and this is a game where you're like, from our first session we're playing, getting through the fair, and then like getting out of prison and everything, for it to go to here, like this is a total game that totally. When you look back at where it starts and to where you are now, it grows in ways you can't even imagine.
And I wonder if that's what was the appeal of it early on, because obviously it's an appeal for us now, but just it seems like a game that did those kinds of things in 95, 96 that other games weren't doing, perhaps?
Yeah. Still a bit on the childish side at times, but its seriousness is there and it grows. And I think why people look back so fondly on this, because I could see if you think about like the heyday of people playing this game in 95, 96, they're not used to this type of storytelling at all, like, and being treated to somewhat of a serious story, and it keeps kind of adding more to it as it goes. You're like, oh, okay, we got time travel now. Okay, that's the twist. Okay, no, there's this like end of time, end of world, but now something's up with that. Oh, now there's these magic castles in the sky and dreams, and yeah,
it's like
it comes together. It's just you realize as it goes on, there's a lot more that they're trying to say with this game than just tell a simple tale.
Well, yeah, it's a pretty rich story, and I feel like, and I might be stereotyping, but some RPGs, especially in that era, were a lot more straightforward, just A to B to C. So this is definitely, I assume, was a breath of fresh air, but even now it's still just like a breath of fresh air. Like this is a, I don't want to say straightforward, but the combat and the exploration is not too difficult. The hard thing for me is figuring out the narrative, which is intriguing to me.
Yeah. I guess back in 95, because that was when Final Fantasy VI came out in the States as well.
Oh, so I didn't know those were contemporaries.
They were very close. Well, 6-3 in the US. But they came out, I'm pretty sure, within at least 2 years of each other.
Right.
And they both did big twists and big plot points. So I think that's why kind of people look back at those and go like, these were. I can see why some people would be like, this is the best JRPGs have ever been.
Right.
And I wouldn't necessarily blame them. It's hard to say that things have done it even better. I definitely think 7 had some great twists in it, push things forward. And newer stuff. I think the newer stuff has just gotten a lot. Like now people expect the twist.
Right. So it's not as shocking at all.
Yeah.
I think the way that they've made those twists more engaging for the player is that they get to choose how that goes. Like think about The Witcher. Like the endings, you have a lot more choice. I know in Chrono Trigger there were multiple endings, so you had some choices as well.
Yeah.
But
not really the first playthrough though.
That's true. But it is. Well, I guess we could go to the end of time and beat.
Yeah, you could finish it now if you feel like you're strong enough.
Well, I almost beat it last time, so I think I probably could do that, but I don't. I'm keeping a save file so that I can go back after I beat the game to go do that and see what happens when you just beat it. But it's interesting talking about the narrative of games and how they've evolved and changed, and how maybe there aren't any storylines that have really done something to surpass this in the RPG genre or whatever. Because you think about literature, there are stories like Lord of the Rings, for example. There might not be anything that tops Lord of the Rings. Like Lord of the Rings is a really, really good story.
Yeah, and it's not to say that there isn't good stories still coming out. It's just that can you ever think of any of the fantasy stuff that we've read that would ever be held up as good as Lord of the Rings, as groundbreaking?
As groundbreaking, no.
I think if Game of Thrones finishes, maybe.
Right. And
I don't even know, because I would honestly say the last few books haven't been as great.
That's what I was going to say, is I don't think so, just because it's too unwieldy. But we don't know until we get to the end, I think. I think anything that would stand the test of time, like Lord of the Rings would be something compact, something that is accessible. And I don't think George R. R. Martin's work is that, even though it's like my favorite books of all time. I know he's called the American Tolkien and whatever, but no, groundbreaking, no. I think nothing's going to ever top Lord of the Rings in the fantasy genre. Everything has just been so iterative off of Lord of the Rings. And, Martin's work isn't, but almost every other fantasy work is,
in some way. And then when sci-fi, you have Dune.
Right.
And as a person that didn't read Dune until about 8 years ago, I was like, sure, Dune's always known as it. And then I read Dune and was like, holy shit. Yeah, this is an amazing book. I don't know if anything will ever top this. Like, it's so seminal to all sci-fi after it.
Yeah, it's a book that I read, I think, like 4 years ago, and it was just good. Really, really good.
Yeah, you get down and you're like, oh, I see why people really like this. Okay. It holds up and it works. So I don't know. And it kind of feel like that way with some of these older JRPGs here, that they're just doing things that hadn't been done before. So they've started laying the groundwork for what we know today.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Speaking of current gems, you saw credits on Monster Hunter World. So why don't you
I did.
Tell us about that journey. So I'm ready whenever you are. So let me just start that section over again, okay?
Okay.
So the last section for tonight is going to be what we're playing, and I assume you're playing the same thing you've been playing for a while, but I think you finally saw the credits. So tell us all about it.
Yes, after 90 hours, I saw the credits.
Oh my god! Dude.
So, which is funny because my friends playing, they are at 140 and 190 hours, and they just saw the credits.
Oh, did you guys do it together?
No.
Oh, okay.
But we all did it roughly at the same, within a day of each other. Mm-hmm. So, I don't want to hear anyone complain about like hours of gameplay at all in this thing, because I should say I saw the credits. The game's not done.
Right.
It could be. I guess you could say, I'm done. But it's funny. You get back from the credits, and it kind of sets up some more story lightly.
Oh,
like,
really? Okay.
A reason to keep playing. There's new mechanics now.
So after the credits roll, there's still more gameplay that you haven't done before.
Yes.
That's cool. Wow, that's pretty good value for a $60 package.
Yes. This is an absolutely ridiculous game on a value stand front. And then I'm still having a lot of fun with the fights. I will say that the last 3 monsters plus the end boss were not as hard as the one before that was the gate that blocked me from getting to these 4.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. A monster called Nergigante is probably what I consider one of the hardest fights in the game. And it's not the end boss. It's 4 monsters before the end boss.
So it's not even like the penultimate boss. You still have to go through several more.
It's a gate, basically.
Right.
Like, you need to be this tall, but I still feel like it trained me and was hard enough that I'm like, oh, these rest of these things are not that hard in comparison.
For some reason in games, I love it when, like, maybe an hour or half an hour before the end boss or whatever, you face the hardest thing, and then the rest of it's kind of like coming down. I don't know why I like it like that. I enjoy where the end boss is kind of, you've learned everything you need to know, and it's just kind of not a cakewalk, but you feel powerful, like you're supposed to.
I definitely wouldn't say that the end boss is a cakewalk.
Yeah.
It's just not. The reason why Nergigante can be really hard is because there's just a lot of quick reactions you have to do sometimes. Like, he'll do tells, and it's like, you better get into your invulnerability frames on your dodges, because if you don't, you just die.
One hit? Wow.
It can. Usually about 3/4 of your life. If you're under 3/4 of health, you will die if you're too close to this thing. So be careful. And the end boss doesn't typically have stuff that happens that fast. It gives you time to get out more from bad situations.
Right.
But I don't know. I've really enjoyed the game quite a bit. I'm not done with it. I still want to play and build armor sets, and now I'm going into crazy theory crafting of different armor sets and different setups and skills, and there's a lot of depth to this game.
So you just rolled credits and kept going?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Got monsters to fight. I fought the end boss twice now. I fought Nergigante. Another time I fought another Elder Dragon, helping friends out. Another time. It got to get the parts, got to make the gear.
Right.
I mean, that's how it works, right?
So this game seems to be one that's going to make your top list this year, unless something.
It'd be. I mean, if this thing gets pushed out of top 5, I'd be amazed, and that means we've gotten 5 more absolutely incredible games this year. What? So win-win either way.
Yeah, absolutely. God, Capcom has such a hit on their hands. Partially, I think it's when they released, but also just it sounds just so quality.
It is an insanely high quality game, and then you watch the credits roll and realize how many people worked on this game.
Yeah.
And a lot of it was outsourced, almost certainly. You can see like the main team credits, and then they just go to roll black with a bunch of other names, and I'm pretty sure every single one of those is, for the most part, outsourced companies, freelance artists.
Right.
I don't think Capcom's big enough to produce the amount of art and content that this game actually has in it.
And there's supposed to be DLC coming, right?
This Thursday.
Oh, shit.
It's the first big update. It's the I don't know this monster because I haven't played previous games too far. So it's called Devil Joe.
Devil Joe?
Devil JHO.
Oh, okay.
Devil Joe.
Mm-hmm.
New monster that supposedly people know and are super excited, but it's a new monster, new weapons from parts from that monster, and new armor from that monster. That's the 22nd, and then sometime in the beginning of April is a spring festival,
mm-hmm.
and there's all sorts of special events during that. So it's almost an MMO. It's very close to an MMO.
But you are not seeing as many people in the world, right? It's like a total of 16 or something like that. You can see
at max.
Yeah,
and it's not like 16 random people. Like you could invite 16 people to be, and it's not in your city. It's in one specific part of the city, if you wanted to.
Right.
Like it's not. This is not even Destiny's main city hubs or anything like that. Like this is very much your own game where you can be part of a guild if you want to, and if you're a part of a guild, you can see the other guild members online. And there can be 16 people in a guild.
So this is something I should probably grab in the fall, I think. The way that you talk
yes.
about it. Yeah. And I like that you can solo it or play in a group and kind of...
Yeah, no, and it scales itself to that.
Exactly, right. You're not losing much, other than the camaraderie, I guess. Also, you remind me that the Street Fighter V finally has started their Monster Hunter get up round for Ken, which is my main. You can get Monster Hunter armor for him as like an outfit, basically. I
wonder when he's going to come to Monster Hunter World, because we already have Ryu in it.
Yeah, right.
There. The next one is Dante from Devil May Cry.
Uh-huh.
They didn't announce when, but they showed it off. We have Aloy from Horizon.
Are you still using that skin? Sorry.
No.
Okay.
It's on a skin though. That's the thing. It's a whole armor set, and I don't need to wear that armor set right now.
I see.
So, yeah, it's going to be really interesting what Capcom decides to play. Because I mean, I could see them pulling in Street Fighter characters for the lifetime of this game.
Yeah.
So,
well, they're bringing in a Mega Man Palico, so
yes, they are. That's part of the Spring Festival.
That just looks so jarringly like the art style, just so crazily like doesn't fit.
Nope, not at all.
God.
And they don't care.
Yeah.
They're going like, I don't know. It's been a blast of a game. It's scratching that MMO itch that I have wanted for so long, but in a easier to get in, get out sort of way.
That's the thing that appeals to me so much, is that it doesn't seem like a time sink, in that you can start something and there's you have like 40, or you said 50 minutes or whatever to complete the quest, and that's kind of your time commitment. Yeah. Tops,
and like most of the time you're sub 30 minutes. 20 seems to be around the average, 20 to 25.
Right.
And even now I'm like Nergigante, the super like hard one. Well, I'm not like speed running it or anything. The last time I fought it, I took it down in 15 minutes. Well, the first time took me 35.
Oh wow. Okay.
So I'm getting better gear and just understand the fight better, so I can just deal out more damage. I'm doing less running around, more just actually hitting the monster.
What a long boss fight! Wow.
they're always, that's the thing about them. They are long.
Yeah.
Unless you're wanting to go back and play super weak things, which you can do, and you can take those out in like a minute.
And you're farming materials with those.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Doing weekly quests to just farm a few monsters to unlock other things. But yeah, you understand the power that you've gained when you go back to low level stuff and just destroy it.
Right.
Yeah, I highly recommend the game. It's everything I think I kind of wanted Destiny to be from a meta level.
In terms of how...
From meta, for how you gain gear, how you feel progression. Like,
right. Like
this game understands
kind of thing.
The whole loot loop is there, and then the fact that even lower tier armors and weapons are still viable. Like... I have lower tier pieces of armors that I swap in because they just have good skills on them that I want when fighting certain monsters. So you never, and they do a good job of mixing the parts around so that sometimes a part that would takes most of them parts from one monster might have some other parts sprinkled in, so that you have to go experience other things or go back and farm something a little bit lighter.
Right.
So, I mean, they just do a good job of giving you agency of what you want, and then making it seem like the stuff that you're getting, a large amount of it, is viable even in late game.
That's awesome. Man, it's just... You said that there are no microtransactions. There's no way to give them money after you buy the game, right?
There's one now.
Oh, there is? Okay.
Or will be coming. And this is the weird... Everyone gets one for free, but you can... recustomize your character completely. So there was in the game you could actually like change your hair, you could do minor appearance changes, but you can actually now they haven't put them for sale yet. Everyone just got one for free, a character re-edit voucher or whatever they're called, and it'll allow you to change your gender, to change height, like really just change your character completely.
Right.
Can't change the name, but you can change your look completely. And I have a feeling they're just going to sell those.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Which I'm like, whatever. Like has nothing to do with power level. That's
just cosmetic.
I don't like how my character looks now, or I fucked up during character creation.
Yeah.
Change my look, but I have one now sitting there, so I guess I'll use it eventually. But that's all that they've shown that they're going to have people buy. So, nope, $60, you get the game.
God, I wonder if they're going to do like some sort of expansion or something later that's paid. I know they're doing that free stuff you were talking about, but it just seems like I guess I'm in a games as service mode now where it just seems like everyone loves it and would be happy to pay a little more for like a huge expansion or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if you look at all the other, like the 3DS ones didn't really have paid expansion content. Right. Like, I just don't think that's the model. I think the model will be there will be Monster Hunter World 2. Right. And it will be in like 2 years.
Wow, like, that's pretty short.
I mean, the turnaround time on 3DS was really, really high. And the thing is it won't be like a whole new graphics engine or anything.
Right.
It will be content update. Like, they can use a lot of the same monsters because they're staples of the series.
Right.
Add a few new monsters in, modify the weapons, and like how weapons work, maybe add some new mechanic. Monster Hunter World 2 would not be like a complete revamp of the game overall. Right. Just be more content. It would be... So I feel like 2 years with the team and the outsourcing that they were doing seems to be about the right time.
Right.
Like, they'll support this for a year and a half of DLC, and then there'll be Monster Hunter World 2.
Basically do it Pokemon style.
Yeah.
Where you kind of have the same stuff. You add a few new things, and I mean, obviously they made bigger changes than that, but kind of just call it a day and put out the new thing.
Yeah. I don't think... And right now, I'm like, no, I wouldn't be unhappy with that. I'd be okay with that.
Yeah.
I don't think they need to completely reinvent the wheel yet. So yeah, thumbs up.
Awesome.
Game's great.
Is that all you've been playing?
That Chrono Trigger. Oh, with Twitch having. Do you see the Twitch Prime giving out the free games?
Yeah. Jesus.
I played some Shadow Tactics.
Oh yeah. What do you think?
Really, only about a half an hour of it.
Okay.
I was enjoying it. It's a pretty puzzly though. From a tactic, like I still have to work my way through. The levels are pretty large, and parts of it feel less like just a stealth game and more like, all right, here's the situation for this small area of the map. With my resources, what's the correct solution?
Right.
Because it feels like there's correct solutions. So it's very puzzly. It plays well though if you like the real time tactical strategy type game. Jagged Alliance comes to mind. Older games like that.
I can't.
But yeah, it was free, so I was like, sure, I'll check that out.
I'm confused why they're giving away so many free games. It was like 5 of them.
5, and they said they're going to do this monthly.
Well, next month is SteamWorld Dig 2, which is like that just went on sale on Steam. It's like $9 right now, or $13 or whatever. But like everyone's going to get it for free if they have Twitch Prime, and that is just a stellar ass game. Like that's crazy.
So if you think about that, then I mean, I'm hoping the SteamWorld devs got some good money from Amazon to do this and Twitch.
Right.
I assume they did. I wouldn't be surprised if Amazon's like, no, we're going to pay you well to get your games on this service, and just trying to
get people to go to Twitch Prime. Subscribe.
Yeah, basically that use I see Amazon using Twitch to start. It's going to be their way to start challenging Steam.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because you have to get the Twitch client to.
Yeah, it's its own client.
Yeah. I claim the games. I need to get there and get them. Unbelievably, I think that whenever I talk to you, my daughter wakes up. My wife has her right now, so we're fine. But that's just uncanny. We're going through the 8-month sleep regression right now, which is just hell. So anyway, I'm glad you're playing Shadow Tactics. For me, it was Assassin's Creed Origins. It's just my go-to game when I hit the console. I keep wanting to get back to Persona 5, and I'm so far through Assassin's Creed that I'm trying to like mainline the story now, which is hard because I keep getting distracted. But I'm really trying to stay on the critical path, basically. And it's just not much more to say other than it's just really well put together. Like that's, certainly a game that I hope is on your radar, because it seems like one that's would be well suited for you. And if you put 90 hours into Monster Hunter, you certainly have the time to put 30 into Assassin's Creed. And then that was the only thing I played this week besides Chrono Trigger, because I didn't even turn on the Switch. I didn't play any Celeste at all. So yeah, just Assassin's Creed Origins, more of the same. Just really, for me, it seems like pretty good writing. I don't know if they took cues from The Witcher or just tried to make their side quests more engaging, not just the simple like fetch quests or whatever. They put a lot of time into it, and I know that they are doing some expansions later in the year, I guess, but they've been releasing a few, like Trial of the Gods, and there's like a Pharaoh expansion that just came out that looks just badass, and I'm just thinking, when am I gonna have time to even play that? Because I haven't even got through. I'm just barely halfway through the story right now on Origins, but it's just in every way, top to bottom, probably the best, certainly the best one that I've played. But it's great. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So that's episode 131 of Prof and Dev Play Games. Sorry we're a day late. We had some issues with crying children and internet issues taking out my basically ability to record off the internet, because there was no internet. So
kids in tech.
Oh God, this weekend.
Not death and taxes. Kids in tech.
Kids in tech this weekend just have been up in my grill, which is we sign on for that with the kid. That's fine. But my router goes out, just completely just shits the bed, like for no reason. Yeah, that was quite odd. But anyway, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
All right, later, everyone.
Night.